Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final webinar of the year. I can't believe it's already been a year. So for all of you who attended, thank you so much for joining us for the final webinar of the year, SmartSimple's linked record list. My name is Claudine Ting, and I'm the marketing specialist for client success here at SmartSimple. So before we begin, I just wanted to tease out the social media contest that we have for revealing the location of Elevate 2020. So join the hashtag Elevate 2020 Big Reveal to get your registration for free next year. So just some instructions. We posted already some clues on our social media channels. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Comment on your guess on where Elevate will be for next year. Make sure you use the hashtag Elevate 2020 Big Reveal, and that gets you a chance to win your registration for free next year to Elevate 2020. So our host for today is Eric Lauer, co-founder and director of customer experience. Just some housekeeping rules for those joining us for the first time. Feel free to write your questions on the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll answer all of them at the end of the presentation. And now I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Eric.
Great, thanks, buddy. So today's webinar, we're focusing on what we're calling SmartSimple's linked record list. And we'll show you how you can use that to keeping your tasks and records in one place. So really what that's about is it's just an additional tool. It's actually a custom field that will allow you to organize your forms better in that kind of sense. So in this case, you've seen a format change here for webinars. We've been trying to present you with a real use case problem and then showing you how some of our functionality and features can help you solve that problem. So in this case, as you're creating forms within SmartSimple, whether it's an application form, maybe it's a claim form, maybe it's even something like a review form, you want to show, or maybe you have access to other relevant information, and typically that would be information that consists of other records. So in one example, you may have some contacts or co-applicants that you want to assign, or reviewers maybe, or you want to link a particular application form once it's approved to various panels or budgets. So we've always had this ability. However, the way you would navigate the screen would be you would save the work you're doing, you'd click on the left-hand navigation menu to that respective area, add in the additional contacts or different records, such as maybe the reviews, for example, and then you'd have to go back to where you were and then carry on your application form. So the use of the a linked record list is be able to take some of those areas, primarily the links on the left-hand side, but insert them into the main page of the form so that you don't have to leave your screen, and then you can fill in these areas as part of your process flow. And we'll show you how to do that today. So it was funny when we were putting the slides together, and it turned out it was like 3 easy steps, and actually it is 3 easy steps. I was kind of surprised. But basically, here's the steps, and I'll walk you guys through this. But first of all, the best place to start is you're going to want to create a list. So because we're linking lists of things, so this is a list of contacts, a list of other objects like a review or reports or payments, you're going to want to create that list view first. It'll just make things easier. So what am I going to want to show on this linked record list? So get your list view sorted out first step. Then second step is create a new custom field. And we have a special one. It's named the same as what we've been talking about in our webinar today. So it's called Field Type Special Linked Record List. And you can place it wherever you want in the form using the display order, or if you're in configuration mode, you can just choose the area that you want to insert the field. And then because we've already created our list view, you just need to choose it. Tell the system what kind of list view it is. Is it a contact or is it an activity? And then if applicable, you can say, well, when people add contacts or reviews to this form, what role is it going to assign them in? And it's really as easy as that. So the benefit of this really is just it's easy to set up. It's not that hard. If you can add a custom field, you can use this. It creates a more intuitive process flow within your forms, so you can kind of structure them a bit better to make more sense from your end users who may not be as familiar with the system. It'll just be more intuitive when they're working with your information. Efficiency, again, that's just a byproduct of, if people can complete the forms faster, more intuitively, then they're not calling you as often and they're not getting stuck, and they can just, get to the chase and finish what they're trying to do. And it gives you more control of your configurations and more ability to display things in a more meaningful way for your constituents. So we'll get into the demo portion here, and I'll have Claudine pass me the controls. I think she already did. She did. Sorry about that. And I will share my screen. Okay. Great. Perfect. So I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to use one of our demonstration sites. And this one, again, don't get caught up into our branding or what market this is for, but this just happens to be a sample system where it would be used for research granting. So this would be a researcher applying for funding with an institution that provides that kind of funding. So where we're going to start today is actually I'm going to go into the submission manager, and I'm going to call up, just for the sake of time, I'm going to show you how that looks on the screen. I'm going to edit an application that's already in a draft format, so I can edit it, and that's the only reason why I'm using draft, is so that I can edit the grant application before it's being approved. And we have here a standard form. I'm looking at the form now from the perspective of a staff person and administrator, so I do see a lot of information here, and that's on purpose. But what I want to point out here is we have our standard fields and functionality. I can attach files, fill out a lot of different information, but the ones we're going to focus on today is this section here. So because I'm a staff person, and I know what program that this application belongs to, and I'm also aware that we have a panel-style review for these type of applications, I want to assign that panel now at this stage when I'm looking at it, so that it's already in place for later. So what we're seeing here on the screen from the word panels down is really the linked record list. So it's the same as if I clicked on panels here on the left-hand side. So if I go panels on the left, I have to choose my other UTA, to use SmartSimple speak, so my other module, and I can go here and I can choose a panel and I can associate it to my application, right? So if I go back up to view again, just to refresh the screen, and I go to panels, guess what? There's my panel that I just assigned, but I did it down through here. Now, it seems easy for me because I know what I'm doing, but if this was someone who is maybe not as experienced with the system, or maybe as an applicant who has to fill in a similar piece of information, it's not intuitive to be in this part of the screen, and then I have to jump away and say, oh, well, actually, to add the panel, you have to go down here to the bottom left, click away, and then come back and refresh the screen. So by creating these linked record lists, I can now just pop the same screen that I had tucked away over here on the corner, but in my main area of presentation. And, we have the forward, back buttons. I can progress through my application form, and I can do the same thing. I can add another panel here, right? So same functionality I had before. I can do an auto lookup, or I can click the button, do a more formal keyword search, right? So I have all the same functionality that I would have had in the previous area, but now I'm able to present it here in the main inline form of the screen. So how does this all come to place? Well, let's take a look at what we've done. So in the panels, I'm going to go to my panel manager, and I would have created a list view. So creating a list view, folks, is the same as anywhere. You can choose here, right? We have a default one, and I can get into, this is probably the fastest way. If you go into the module, you go to the lists area that you want to create the view for, and you can just click the gears icon here to either go to the main list view area, or I can edit the one I'm looking at by clicking the wrench next to the name, and I can modify the list view here. I can also get into the list views by going into my main module configuration screen, choosing the appropriate level area of the module, and then I can choose list views, and I have access to the same screen here. So today, don't want to focus too much on the list view creation part. Hopefully most of you are familiar with creating those, but once you've defined your list view here, it's just a matter of going back to your main area where you want to insert the linked record list. It's harder to say than you think, Claudine.
I know. I was trying to make the webinar presentation, and I keep saying it in my head.
But here we have panels, and I've chosen the appropriate tab here. Oh, clicking around too fast. And I'm just going to put myself into configuration mode, just so we can edit the field. So this is allowing me to modify the properties of that field. And we can see here, as we mentioned in the PowerPoint, it's a linked record list. Okay, we can give it a name, give it a caption, just like any other field. We can choose where we want that field to be. And down here, it's really just three. And this is what we're saying, 3 easy steps. It's really just saying, well, what kind of list is this for? The submission manager knows that the panels are a UTA module that I can work with. So it says, oh, I want to choose a panel list view. When I open up the second drop down now, it says, oh, well, here are all the list views that are available for you to choose. I want this one. And it says, well, when I do pick a record and I add it to that list, what role should I pick when I'm doing that? And it's going to be panel. Or which ones am I allowed to choose when I'm picking? And we can define that here. So what did all these 3 settings mean? Just to cover that again. Well, really, it says show this list view here. So this is the blue highlighting in the background. It says show this list view. Then it says, well, what things do I want to link? We said panels. So when I type in my search, it's only going to show me records from the panel manager. And when I choose a record here to add, it'll say, well, what role did I add when I did that? And we said add it as a panel. And by doing so, it'll make sure that, when I save my record now, and I go to my left-hand side, I can actually see that same panel here, because we said we want to put it as a panel, that it's going to show up in my panel manager list, same as here. So it's actually even better because it's controlling a lot more information. So in this case, I can make a mistake. I can come here and say, oh, I'm going to link a panel, but I'm going to call it a clinical trial. That's wrong. So by creating the linked record list, you can actually make sure that when someone adds that new record, it's only coming across as a panel, and that's all that it's meant to be. So, yeah, I wish I had more to show you, but that's really how this works. And there's a lot of different use cases that people have done with it in real life. One of the most common ones, I would say, is making a contact list, or even an organization list. They tend to be, this one is locked down, but this is an actual co-applicants. So if I were to create a new one for this particular record here, I'll show you. And I'm going to log in as a brand new applicant just to show you. So I'll log in here as Deborah, and I'm going to emulate Deborah's session. And I'm going to create a brand new application form, just so you guys can see. And I create a new opportunity. Let's do this postdoc. I'm going to answer my eligibility quiz. And as long as I pass, I go to my next screen. And it's sort of like this screen here with the letters of reference. So if I want to, actually, I think in this case, this is, I'm picking up an XML form, but you can see it here when I save my record. It allows you to place these fields in context with the rest of the application, right? So I can go next, right? I'm not seeing all that stuff on the left-hand side. I don't have to save it first, come back to it. even if I do other ones that are in progress, maybe this one here, this is the field I was looking for. We can invite co-applicants. Here's my proposal screen. You can have as many of these as you want. Reviewers. It doesn't really matter where you place them, but some common, I think the most common one we've seen in practice is either contacts from an end user perspective. So instead of having your applicants go into, and I'll go into one of the applications here, instead of having them click and have to navigate to this contacts section on the left-hand side, they can just do it here from within the main screen. And that even that alone is very helpful. Like I said, from a staff perspective, it tends to be maybe I want to add a bunch of payments, reviews, panels, things like that tend to be the most common use cases that we've seen of how people are applying this in their systems. So I think I'll stop at this point and to see if anyone has any questions.
Thanks so much for that, Eric. So you mentioned use cases. Aside from the research industry, how do you see use cases for this and other fields, let's say in philanthropy or in the government space?
Contacts. Really, it's about contacts. Or organizations. So a lot of times you may have a fiscal sponsor, maybe you have different payee organizations. So instead of, again, saving the record, telling or putting instructions to your users, say, okay, now you have to click in the left menu and add some contacts to the grant or add your fiscal sponsor over there. You can have a fiscal sponsor section or a payee organization section and have it pop up. Now, if you really want to get creative, you can even use it dynamically where I can tick a box and say, oh, do you have a fiscal sponsor, or do you require, do you have a payee organization that I need to be aware about? When I click yes, then that section pops up and I can add it. So there's a lot of different use cases for that. Even I know today I used a research demo site, but it's applicable for any vertical.
Okay, so next question that we have here. What is the difference between using a panel and linking individual reviewers to each application? Oh,
yeah, so that's outside of the linked record list, but a panel is just a predefined meeting. Think of it as again, for those in the philanthropic space, think of it as a board meeting or meeting manager. Maybe you have to put this grant in for the board review. So rather than linking all the reviews one by one, I can set up a meeting to say this is the review meeting, and then I can already have the meeting set up, or maybe you don't know yet who's going to participate, but I can predefine which meeting that grant application will be part of. So maybe you do quarterly or annual board meetings, or semi-annually, depending on your foundation. You can have those all predefined and then just add the grants to the one that would be relevant for your use case.
Perfect. Okay, so next question. With the contact list, can you restrict them to only seeing contacts associated with their organization?
Yes, so great question. So that all the rules still apply. So and those rules are applied on your security matrix. So if you have rules in your system that say I can only see people at my organization, even if I make a contact record list, it will allow you only to see the people that you're allowed to see. So that's actually a really good question, and I'm glad you brought it up because I'll remember at the root of the SmartSimple platform, the security is foremost. So even if I put something as powerful as a linked record list in the middle of my form, the people are only going to be able to see things that you allow them to see.
Okay. Are these list views just displaying information, or do they have other functions?
They're just displaying information. However, you can, it's just like allowing you to, well, I shouldn't say that. You can add, so it allows you to add or remove the list, items from the list, and allows you to view the list.
Okay. Can the records be created using ListView, or it only shows pre-created records?
In this case, it's pre-created only. So it's allowing you to associate or make a linkage between two things. So they have to exist in the first place. However, now that I said that, in some cases you can point to, like in the contacts, if you're in a portal, you're able to allow records to be created. But that would, again, be your business rules and your permission settings.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
it's the list view that controls that, not the record list field. It's the permissions and your list view that would allow our records. Like in this case here, I'm looking at a list view called Draft Applications, and I have a plus button here. This is a property of the list view. It's not a property of anything else.
Okay. Would it be possible to have features of a list on this, for example, batch updates?
Yeah, so again, the use case is really just to make it easier for people to make the link. It's not meant to replace, if you can see the screen that I have open right now, it's not meant to replace your main kind of search screen that has all the special functions.
Okay. Going back to fiscally sponsored organizations, can you restrict the contacts to just the fiscally sponsored organization and their fiscal sponsor?
Yes, because, so really what you're doing, so all of that is controlled by the list view you pick. So when I create my linked record custom field, and here, let me go back in just to explain it maybe a bit better for this particular question. So let's go back into my application. Oh, I'm having some connectivity issues. Oh, no, I seem to be back. Can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. So let me just go here, and I'll go into my configuration mode. So when I edit this field, the field itself doesn't do much. It just says, hey, I want to put a list view here, and I want to link things. So remember, the purpose of this field is to link two things together. But because I'm choosing my list view in this case, and I could jump using this button to look at the configuration of that list view, it's really allowing you to, when you create a list view, you're able to put filters there. So if you build your list view that has predefined, that says, I only want fiscal sponsor contacts to show here, then it can do that. So it's as powerful as the filtering is for the list view. So the list view filter will control the things that you see.
Okay. All right. So another question here. I can see some uses for this just from a display perspective. Is it possible to have these sorts of lists on contact profiles? For example, in the left sidebar, there are the level 1 records they are associated to, but it would be useful to break that down further in this sort of list so that you see individual roles that contact has with those applications.
Yes. So again, great question. Yeah. Again, you can have as many of those fields as you want. So that's a real creative use for things. So you can actually create any number of them and say, oh, here's a list of scholarship grants. Here's a list of community grants. Here's a list of, whatever.
Whatever
operating
grants.
grants. The sky's the limit, and you can chunk it out and make it really like organized. And even with people, you can say, here's the reviewers, here's the co-applicants, here's the board members. So it's really, if you pick and choose your list view correctly, and you pick and choose the filters you apply, you can really be really creative with your approach.
No, thank you.
And as always, these are great questions. We're more than happy to discuss these
in detail
offline. Please give us a call, and we can talk through your system with you and see how you can take use of this and how you can kind of make it work within your specific configuration.
Thank you again, Eric. Another question that we have, can this display a dynamic list of records, or will the end user create the list?
No, it's either like you saw on my screen, when I added it in one place, it shows in the other. So it's meant to be dynamic, where people can add records and remove them. But in a sense, it is predefined, because if I already had, like in this case, if I put a contacts section, and we can see here there's 2 contacts. So if I put participants and I put a participant linked record list here, it's going to show those 2 people. So in a sense, they can be predefined, yes. And if you permission the custom field appropriately, you can make it read only, so people can't interact with it. They can just view.
Okay. Another question that we have, can you do cross-UTA lists, as in linking the budget manager information into the grant applications?
Again, great question. Sorry if it wasn't obvious, but that's what we're doing here with the panels. The panels is coming from a different UTA altogether. I'm currently in the submission manager, but this list is actually from this UTA over here.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Question again? Actually, no, not a question. Just a note about how we use it in the level 1 proposal. We use this feature to display the external review activities for that level 1. This way, the program officers can review, can see who reviewed the proposal and the recommendations, and can easily open the review from that screen.
That's a great use case, and thanks for, so thumbs up to, and Annie. Thumbs up to you for adding an excellent use case to it. Yeah, you know, this is a really, like I said, you can be so creative with this feature, and it really allows you to kind of control what information you want and where you want to place it. So, yeah, we're really happy with this as a functionality. So if you're not using it, then we suggest you know try and see where you can, or even speak to your colleagues of how they're using it within the industry. And we're happy to put you in touch as well with others who are in your location or who are also taking advantage.
Okay, another question that we have here, can you use it the other way around, from the organization profile and then link to the different UTAs?
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, you can have, like you said, the opposite of what I was doing. You could be on the org profile and show all the applications or something. It's really, it's up to you how you want to use it. So any way you want to mix and match list views and filters and display it in a list form, then this is the right feature for you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. We can take 1 or 2 more questions. Okay, I think we're all set. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for the final webinar for the year, Linked Record List. If you have any questions, I have Eric's email here. Send him an email, elauer@smartsimple.com, or also email support@smartsimple.com. But yeah, when you send an email about how to further use this feature, Eric or the support team will be able to help you. And lastly, thanks for bringing this up. A recorded version of this webinar will be available next week on our YouTube channel. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks,
Bye now.